What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Got some really spicy duels for you guys to check out. Once again, it's my buddy GCD, and yeah, he's playing a very strange water deck. I think that a lot of people have probably caught on to the potential of this deck and how crazy and explosive it can actually be. I am back on YGO Pro 2 because we want some link format duels, no more fake Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think that this is one where I don't need a ton of setup. I think that I can just kind of explain it as I go on. All I'm gonna say is Big Fish, the Deep Sea Color Camp, that card is pretty OP in link format, and you guys will find out why momentarily. And the really cool thing about this play in this deck, it actually uses an Exceed monster that I honestly thought was totally useless. I don't even know if I did a review of the card because I was just like, oh man, I really don't feel like shitting on this card because I don't think it's good. But in this one super obscure deck, it actually can work, and the pop-off is just utterly real. So let's go ahead and roll this. I believe that GCD is going second, by the way. Watch him because he's a Yu-Gi-Tuber. Support small Yu-Gi-Tubers, and you can see it's a little bit of an uphill battle. Look, I know that the Masterpiece isn't like, it doesn't have a whole bunch of traps on the field to back it up, but I personally like to think Masterpiece is still a bitch of a card to actually deal with, and I believe the Masterpiece is unaffected by spells and traps, and I believe the Heritage did get him a card. So, you know, he's got a Masterpiece, he's got a Heritage, he'll be drawing the 4 cards, and, you know, not Card Demise opening that's broken or anything, but it's a good start. And looking over here, on this side where GCD has a couple of Swap Frogs and a Nimble Beaver, you would probably say that this opening hand is probably not as strong as Masterpiece, but he does have Moray of Greed in his opening hand, and Moray of Greed can make any janky hand good because you basically get to tag all your monsters out. He's even running Slime Toad, rest in peace Frog, the Jam. He's going to go ahead and, what was that monster that he summoned? He summoned Mermaid Shark, and this was weird because all it is kind of like a shitty Water Stratos. He uses Ghost Ogre on it. I was like, bruh, that wasn't even worth the Ghost Ogre. I mean, I don't really know about that, but okay, because obviously he still gets the search ability to search his monster. He's going to summon the Swap Frog, that special summon. Masterpiece is going to pop it, which I was just like, man, this guy's being really liberal about his removal cards. I mean, I don't know how many removal cards he has. Maybe he has like a Maxi or something, but he's going to go ahead and do that. He special summons another Swap Frog, and he's loading up his graveyard for Rodent Totem. And at this point, he's going to summon that Exceed that I was talking about. It's the Mannequin Cat. I thought this card was utterly useless because it's so situational, and it's like not a very practical card at all, but in this deck it's actually pretty good. If your opponent if a monster is special summoned to your opponent's side of the field, you can special summon a monster straight from your deck that has the same attribute or type as that monster. Again, seems really random, but in this situation where you're playing it in a water deck, it actually works. And the way you can basically trigger its effect without your opponent really having to consent to it at all is by using this card right here, Silent Wobby. He's gonna give it to his opponent. Doesn't matter unless they have a lock field. So he gives him the Silent Wobby, and that means that obviously the Mannequin Cat is going to trigger. I believe that Masterpiece player is actually going to get himself a draw because of the Silent Wobby's effect. So he gets a free draw, but the big thing is he gets a Big Fish straight from his deck. Now, some of you guys might not remember this card because excuse me, maybe you weren't playing during the 5Ds days, but super ancient Deep Sea King Colacamp, whose name I'm not going to say again, I'm just going to call it Big Fish because that's what we used to call it back in the day of 5Ds. This card was very powerful back then, and it can actually dodge Effect Veiler, which was super huge in the 5Ds days. It did get second place at 2 different Shonen Jumps, so don't act like it can't be a powerful card, mainly because it can summon 4 monsters straight from the deck at the cost of discarding 1 card. Now, obviously, if you have a monster that can summon 4 other monsters, that's pretty good in link format because it just means that you can vomit out link monsters left and right. But it's actually even better now than it was during the Synchro era, where you could use it for like Synchro spamming and colossal colossal armory arm OTKs and whatnot. So what he's going to do is going to go Firewall Dragon, and the cool thing is the Oystermeisters, the monsters that he had on the field, when they're sent to the graveyard, as long as it's not by battle, they actually produce tokens, which means that's even more monsters that you can use for link summoning. So it's actually pretty crazy how much material and how much fodder you get from the Oystermeisters. So you see right there, he's getting tons of monsters. Now he's going to use Firewall Dragon's effect. He's going to get 2 monsters back, And the thing that's dumb here, Firewall Dragon should have been once per turn, but it's not. He can actually use Deep Sea Coelacanth, or he can special summon it with Firewall Dragon's ability, which means he gets to use it multiple times in a turn. And at this point, you can kind of see now he's like, all right, well, I'm not going to use Deep Sea anymore. I'm going to start abusing my Rodent Totems that I have in the graveyard too. So he has so many monsters that are just providing fodder that he's able to make, what, like 4 different Link monsters on the field. And by the way, if you're wondering how he got Masterpiece off the field, the Masterpiece was not unaffected by monster effects. It was spells and traps. So he does have this buddy right here, Mr. Trigate, which has 2 of them actually. And this one is linked up with like a billion cards. So as long as it's linked with 2, it can actually banish a card on your opponent's side of the field. So Rest in Pepperoni's the Masterpiece. And that right there, we call that an OTK, even through his own Silent Wubby. But yeah, definitely not enough to stop that. It's so weird because someone, like, we finally have a way of using Mannequin Cat. As far as I know, this is the main way of using it, but I think there might be some other dank plays in the future. Let's watch the second duel. This one, I believe, is going to be very similar. Obviously, the opening hand. Oh no, this one's going to be a little different. I'm not gonna spoil it though. His opponent does have Max C, and that's unfortunate because it stops it stops GCD in his tracks, and you can see he has 2 copies of Slime Toad, so I'm not really sure what you do with that. Maybe I would have went for the Totally Awesome, but that would have actually given him, you know, an additional card and whatnot. His opponent just summons, like, Crush Wyvern and just passes. Like, okay, that's kind of a Kappa play, but whatever. He's going to go for Nimble Beaver. That gets him 2 monsters on the field, and then he goes for the Mannequin Cat. Now, in this case, he did do something a little different. Instead of actually going for the Silent Wubby play, since he didn't have it, he Kaijus his opponent, and that's still considered special summoning a water monster on their side of the field. So he's able to activate the Mannequin Cat's effect, and he's able to bring out Big Fish straight from his deck. So there are multiple ways of pulling off the effect. You can't just rely on the Wubby. Now he's going to activate Big Fish's effect, gets 4 monsters, make sure that a lot of them are Oyster Meisters. Got to make sure I pronounce that correctly. And then you can just kind of go to town on your opponent, summon Gaia Saber, get Firewall Dragons for days, activate the effect, the special summon your Big Fish back, activate the effect again, and it's pretty much off to the races at this point. As long as your opponent doesn't have any like back row, you can kind of just OTK through it. It would be actually pretty crazy if Cold Wave was legal or Giant Tornado. Then it would basically be like Fish OTK 2.0. It would just be a link format version, even though this is still kind of an OTK. He's going for Mistar Boy in this situation. He makes an extra link, and then he gets absolutely wrecked by Mirror Force because apparently people playing Mirror Force again in ABC. That was the point that I didn't want to spoil. Now, as you guys will see here, this deck has absolutely no recovery plan, and it has no backup win condition. So if you do run into a battle trap, you might as well scoop. You might as well scoop because you're going to top deck a ton of terrible cards. Like you top deck Moray Agree, which you can't even activate, and you can't really top deck with this deck. If you do run into something like Mirror Force or Torrential, just scoop it up because you're gonna lose. His opponent activates, what's the name of this card again? Union Scramble. I was gonna say, is it called Scramble? Activates Union Scramble, gets a bunch of monsters, and then unfortunately GCD is basically getting OTK'd. So I thought it was still a pretty cool duel. Just don't make sure that you like have the luck of the draw. Make sure you have the heart of the card so that you don't run into those field clearing cards, and you should be able to OTK. Fish.0 or Fish.0. Fish OTK 2.0 link format version. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. If you are interested in the deck list, of course, I will have it in the description of this video. For those of you guys who want to troll around, this is 100% playable under the current ban list and whatnot. And if you guys have any awesome replays or any awesome duels where something crazy happened, or maybe just some really good, entertaining, competitive duels, and they were on YGO Pro 2, go ahead and send them to me at my email, which is in the description of every one of my videos. Thank you guys for watching, as always, and subscribe if you have not already. Turn on the notifications for daily videos.